Diving into your next act or wondering what's ahead? Enjoy life as you change your path and embrace your authentic self.
Join me as we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of making big changes in your life. New directions both personally and professionally. Shake things up. But don't worry, you are not alone. On each episode, we'll be sharing stories, providing valuable information, and introducing you to others navigating their next act. So let's get inspired.
This is a Candy Factory Convo, Life in the Next Act with Gail Shane.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Life in the Next Act. Today, we are talking with Anna Brendle Kennedy, Executive Director of Lancaster Osteopathic Health Foundation, elevating the mental well-being of youth and children in Lancaster County. Anna will be discussing her journey in philanthropy and becoming an advocate for children's mental health. She will share how adults in any community can identify early warning signs or symptoms of mental health needs in our children. Anna will also explain the 5 senses grounding technique. Hello, Anna, and welcome.
Thanks, Gail. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Anna, tell us about Lancaster Osteopathic Health Foundation and what they do to achieve the mental well-being of youth and children in Lancaster County.
Thank you. So, we are a small nonprofit organization, community benefit organization here in Lancaster County, and we serve all sorts of families and children, birth through age 25. And really what we're trying to do is structured around these 2 big questions that we have. And I kind of like to describe them as like a supply and demand, basic economics. There's demand for mental health services, and there are a lot of barriers to accessing care. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to remove those barriers to make finding mental health care easier for families in Lancaster County. And then simultaneously, when a parent is or caregiver is finally ready to access services, they need the services to be available for them when they need them. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to build up the workforce simultaneously. So we're calling that building the talent pipeline, because we want to encourage folks to enter the field of mental health as well. So we have 7 different programs that we offer that are really kind of structured around answering those 2 big questions. Everything from grants to mental health copay assistance to remove those financial barriers for families, to building a clinical supervision collaborative to help folks who are graduating with their master's degrees to get the clinical supervision that they need in order to get their license. So lots of different things, but they're all kind of structured around those 2 big questions.
And you focus on children and youth. At 18, you're not magically an adult, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So one of the things that we found in a needs assessment that we conducted at least 5 years ago was that, children really need a lot of support during these key transition times in their lives. So, there's a time of puberty, there's, a time when teenagers are, graduating from high school, and, what that next path looks like for them is different for every teenager. So really being mindful of those transition times is really important, and recognizing that those are times in a child or a teen's life when they need extra support, especially if they are struggling with a mental health need. We really, as a community, need to be able to support the teenager and their family through that transition. So, it's supporting them through whatever that looks like, and trying to really wrap the services in our community around the youth and the family.
Very good. Anna, in your career, you went from one act to the next. You shared with me something you lost was the best thing that happened to you. Please share your very interesting career path with our listeners.
Sure. So, yeah, I was born and raised here in Lancaster County and grew up on a produce farm in Gap, and had a wonderful childhood, and thought I wanted to save the farmland and do all kinds of things. So, went to Penn State, studied geography and urban planning, and did an internship in Washington D.C. and thought I had my life figured out. Went to graduate school in Southern California at UC Irvine because their program in urban regional planning was really designed around social ecology. So in my world today, that's the social determinants of health. It's sort of, how the whole community, how all the different parts are connected in decision making and in people's lives. And my very first quarter, they're on a quarter system. My very first quarter, I had a full scholarship. So, I made this massive move across the country to start a master's program. I had full scholarship, and I was called into the dean's office, and they said, "I'm sorry, but the state of California doesn't have money to continue your scholarship." And it was heartbreaking.
You lost it.
I
You
lost the whole scholarship. So here I was, an out-of-state student with, what I thought was this great, great way to, complete my master's degree. And I had lost my scholarship. So I had this key decision to make as a, 25-year-old, am I going to move back to Pennsylvania, or am I going to, find something else? And luckily, my department chair at the time said, "I think we can set you up with an internship in the county for a county, special commission." And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because, I was now, working 30 hours a week and going to through my master's program full time, but I was learning so much. And really, this opportunity introduced me to the field of philanthropy because it was a special commission set up to help children be ready and healthy when they enter kindergarten. So I was, thrust into the world of, it's tax dollars, so it's not, private philanthropy, but operated a lot like a foundation because we were funding all kinds of programs all across Orange County, California. And I just soaked it all up. I learned as much as I could. I was grateful. I mean, I still had student loan debt, but at least I was learning something relevant to my career, and it really did shift the course of my entire career.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure the foundation is very happy to have you. How can adults in our community and other communities help to support youth and children in identifying some early warning signs or symptoms of a mental health need?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what's important to recognize is that children's mental health is complex because children are developing so rapidly in their bodies, in their minds, and what works for one child at one age is not necessarily going to work for another child at another age. So it's really important that as adults in the community, whether you're a teacher or a coach or somebody in a faith community, to recognize that children need adults to be there for them. Children need adults that they can count on, that they can rely on, and that's really important because if a child is struggling with a mental health diagnosis, depression or anxiety or stress, or some of the most common things that children really struggle with, they need to know that adults are safe and that they can rely on us to help protect them and keep them safe. So there are some simple techniques that actually are effective and work for all children. So things like practicing mindfulness and practicing gratitude with children, breathing techniques. I know my daughter's 7, and when I would tell her to take a deep breath, she would breathe like that's deep breathing. But you can't tell a child what to, you have to model it for them. So instead, we say, breathe in the flower and blow out the birthday candle and make a wish. It's simple things like that that can really help a child model the techniques, model what we're saying. I can practice a a box breathing with her without saying what it's called or without saying we're going to do some deep breathing. Just, sort of hold her against me and she can feel me breathing and she can do the same thing. So there are some really good techniques that we are funding with grants to help schools bring these techniques into the classroom. Our teachers, especially this year, our teachers need extra support and whatever we can do to help make that whole experience better for the child and the whole school and the whole family is worthwhile. So yeah, there are some really simple things that we can do as adults. So one of the other things that we encourage and practice is something called a grounding technique. So it's really simple things like paying attention to where you are in space, in the world, what's around you, and noticing, and just not really focusing too much on, but just being present and being mindful. And so those simple techniques can really help kids, again, to feel safe. I mean, safety is really kind of key and important because if a child's feeling depressed or anxious, they need to kind of know that they're in a safe place. And I think that's our job as adults.
So when the child is in trauma, all it takes is one caring adult to buffer that trauma. The crisis text line in PA is 741-741.
Yes. Yeah. And anyone can text to that number. You can text PA, and then Pennsylvania, we get, some statistics on that. But anybody can text it. It's free, 24/7, all across the country, actually. But yes, definitely in Pennsylvania too. There's a phone number for 800-273-TALK for suicide prevention. That's also, across the country. And there are some other specific things that are, here in Pennsylvania and Lancaster County. There are so many efforts going on all across, our community and in Pennsylvania that honestly, sometimes as providers, it can get a little overwhelming that there's so much happening. And so I think it's really important to try and just boil it down to the basics and remember that, there are children who are really, really struggling, who are experiencing, all kinds of trauma in their homes. And especially now, it's been increasingly challenging to get the support to families because, again, if children are not in school, then it's harder to get some of those resources to them. But children that are struggling, their parents might not be able to support them and be that safe space for them. So then, really is a responsibility of
Right.
other adults in the community to be on the lookout and help kids, in the role that we're in, whatever that is in their lives, to be stable and supportive and safe for them. So, yeah, I mean, it's really it's amazing. And I think, as hard as this work is, as challenging as it is for me very reassuring to know that all it really takes is one caring adult who provides unconditional love and unconditional acceptance for a child that can completely rewire that trauma in their brain to really buffer the traumatic experiences that they're having in their life. So that's an honor. I mean, that's a huge responsibility that an
Sure.
adult can take.
Sure.
And it's so hopeful.
Yes. I'm going to repeat the text number so we can put that on the bottom of the screen. So the text is 741-741, and you just put in PA. But anyone can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
And then you can text that. That's a crisis text line, 24/7. Anna, you shared with me that kids act out or kids act in. Please explain what that means.
Sure. So this is maybe a simplification of the fight, flight, or freeze idea. So in trauma-informed care, and and adults do this too. When we're triggered or when we're under high stress, we our brains are sort of called our lizard brain. The non-thinking part of our brains takes over. and we just feel, unsafe in whatever the situation is. And so we have this instinct from, eons ago to fight, flight, run away, or freeze, just kind of shut down. And kids do this too. And I think it's a really good indication when a child is, really angry or defiant, or whatever you want to call it. They're in that fight mode, and they're acting out. So the children that are, disruptive in the classroom, or whatever the situation is, those kids are really most likely looking for help and needing our help as adults. And rather than being angry at their frustration, I think we have to kind of think about that as how can we empathize with that child. And then a child that's acting in is that freeze mode. They're really shutting down. But what's happening for those children, and why I think it's so important to remember this, is that those are the silent kids who are struggling and not sharing any of this with anyone, and they're not getting our attention because they're just quietly keeping their heads down, doing their work maybe, and not trying to call attention to themselves. So that is why it's so important, and in our work at LOHF, to screen all children and to provide support and resources that can benefit the entire classroom or the entire grade level, making those screening tools available to all children, because by and large, it's going to be the kids that we never thought are struggling are the ones who really are. And so we need to be able to provide those services to all kids. And then, the ones who are acting in or in freeze mode are, going to get the support that they need, and hopefully finally open up to somebody because someone asked.
So it's the silence, or it's the talking or crying, or stomach aches or headaches.
Yeah. So kids, especially younger ages, I mean, by teenage years, the youth are usually pretty good at describing their emotions, and sometimes even more so. But the younger children really don't often have the words to describe what they're feeling, but they can often identify physiological changes in their bodies. And as adults, we can notice changes in eating and nutrition, changes in sleep patterns. Children who might say, I have a headache, and it's intermittent. It's not a consistent, like for one day or 2 days, but it comes and goes. Or same thing with a stomach ache. A child might say, my stomach hurts. But so it's those kinds of physiological changes that younger children will often identify first, rather than calling an emotion by by name.
So it's listening and exploring and
Yes.
investigating. Children are amazing, aren't they?
Yes.
You're planning some exciting things in the coming months. A big fundraising event in September. September is Suicide Prevention Month. Can you tell us more about Feast of the Senses?
Sure. So you mentioned earlier the 5 senses grounding technique, and this is a really great activity or exercise that we can do with children. It's great for adults too. So we were inspired by this practice, and it's very simple. How it works is, you sit and put your feet on the floor and just identify 5 things you can see around you right now, and then 4 things you can hear, and 3 things that you can touch, and 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And it's just a way to, again, be present, and maybe just take that minute to sort of center, and be ready for whatever's next. So we were inspired by that, and wanting to provide an opportunity to really celebrate children's mental health, all of the great work, not only that our organization is doing at LOHF, but just, in our community here in Lancaster County. So on September 9th, we'll have a Feast of the Senses at the Excelsior, live and hybrid. Because of COVID restrictions, we wanted to really make it accessible. And we're going to, explore the five senses in a almost progressive dinner sort of experience. So I'm very excited about it. I think it'll be a lot of fun and an opportunity for, our community to come together and really celebrate children's mental health. We'll have a live auction and all kinds of, fun things to do, and really have like food and beverage pairings around the five senses. So
September 9th. So back to the grounding technique, because you've mentioned grounding a few times in our conversation. And these five senses, see, touch, hear, smell, taste. When you're doing it, are you quietly doing it, or are you sharing it? When you acknowledge the five things you see and acknowledge the four things you touch, acknowledge three things here, two you smell, one you taste, is it a shared experience or just within?
it's usually just within. So it's guided, but it's being quiet and noticing. And I think that's really powerful, especially for children to practice something like that and to think, okay, I'm just going to notice. I'm going to notice and kids will, they'll shout out things and it's kind of fun. But as adults, I think we, even just between Zoom meetings or, in between meetings, to just take that moment, take that 1 minute and just breathe and practice that quiet, and just be aware of our surroundings can really help to sort of settle ourselves into the present moment. And so modeling that for kids is great. And yeah, it can be silent, or obviously kids are just going to be kids and have fun with it, and that's great too.
Right. Breathe in the flowers, blow out the candles.
Yeah,
Birthday
it really
candles.
works. Exactly. Make a wish.
Make a wish. Is there anything that you'd like to add that I didn't ask you
Oh gosh.
about children and mental health?
Yeah, I mean, kids are just they're incredibly resilient. And I think as parents and as adults in the community, if we've struggled in our own lives as children, having that distance to reflect on it is really powerful. And just remembering that kids are really in the moment. They're really, their emotions are really powerful, and kids are, it's like a roller coaster often. They're either, at the top of the hill or they're at the bottom. They're just they're very present in the moment. And I think, they often don't have the context. They just haven't lived the lives that we've lived, and they don't have the context to really sort of put that into, other situations, or have that distance that we do as adults. So I think empathy is really, really important, and just to sort of to model these behaviors, rather than sort of correcting and telling and doing the. I mean, I do it as a parent, trying to correct my child or, tell her something. And it's often not as effective as just being there. Yes, that's a big feeling, that's a powerful, big feeling. And it's a big feeling, and just acknowledging that. I mean, even with other adults, it's powerful to be with someone in their grief, in their struggle, in their, day-to-day life. I think we owe it to children to do the same and to really be there with them, for them.
Anna, thank you so much for being with us today and talking about such an important topic. Children are our future. Anna is with Lancaster Osteopathic Health Foundation. You can reach her at 717-397-8722 or lohf.org. I'd like to leave you with this. Growth is painful and change is painful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. When you feel stuck, look at the sky. The clouds remind us that everything changes. Please join us next time as we aim to inspire, empower, and inform. Life in the Next Act is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you could subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcasts.
Gail has experienced many acts over the years. Living a full life, she is a mother of 2 and grandmother of 3, and currently calls Lancaster, PA home. An entrepreneur at heart, she's owned several businesses, hosted a popular radio show, and has written for prominent publications highlighting nonprofits. While she holds her real estate license in Florida and PA, she believes her true calling is giving others a voice.
Learn more about Gail at gailshane.com. Life in the Next Act is produced by the Candy Factory Collective at the Candy Factory Co-working Campus in Lancaster, PA. Production support by Jason Mundock and Anna Tran. Administrative support by Ann Kirby, Ariana Henderson, and Krisha Martzell. Notes and links can be found on the show post at our website, candyfactorycollective.com. Candy Factory.
Collective.